When you think about a personal brand, what probably comes to your mind is an influencer or a business owner that's trying to sell his product by building a strong personal brand. But what if I tell you that even if you're an employee, for example, in industry or as a consultant, personal branding can really be a game changer for your career?
Did you approve that awful ad, Fry?
Yes, I did, Leels. And I'll tell you why. Because it grows the brand.
Why is that? I guess we've all been in a situation where we've applied for jobs, maybe even multiple ones, and then we're talking to the recruiter or to HR managers at the company, and every time we have to explain what we are doing, who we are, what skills we have to prove ourselves in the interview. And then also if we do get the job in the first couple of months, we have to really prove that we have the skills that we claim to have, that we really bring a value to the company because, well, they don't know us yet, right? So how should they know any better? And that's really where a personal brand can help. The personal brand tells your employee, tells future recruiters who you are, what skills you bring to the table, what is your expertise and how you can contribute value, and also your track record of already having contributed value. So you can really hit the ground running. You already have the trust of your employee and of the colleagues around you. And that really frees up a lot of time and also relieves a lot of pressure of you, because then you don't have to show anymore who you are and what you can do. The people around you already know it, and you can really focus on developing a skill set and getting work done. Before we dive into how we build this personal brand as an employee, I have some great news to share for you. I'm going to offer a free career consultation for 3 of my subscribers. And there's no strings attached. You don't have to sign up for a newsletter. It's not going to cost you anything. It's just a free consultation for 3 subscribers. If you're interested, just drop a comment or write me an email. My email is in the video description below. And then I'm just going to sit down with you. We're going to have a call or two, and I'm just going to help you with whatever problem that is really important to you right now in your career. But let's get started. So how do we build a personal brand? There's 3 points that are really important for building a personal brand if you are an employee. And that is 1, your skill set and how you communicate it. 2, your character, your values, what you stand for. And 3, your uniqueness, your background, what makes you as a person, what makes you different from anyone else. And that can be experience related or personality related, what really makes you stand out from the crowd. Let's start with the first point, your skill set and how you communicate it. And when it comes to building and communicating a skill set, it's very important that you have expertise in a certain field. And I say specifically not topic, but field. Why? Remember a while ago in another video, we talked about a generalist track versus a specialist career track, right? The specialist focusing on a certain topic like organic chemistry. And then it's very transparent and very easy what you're going to have expertise in. Well, it's the topic that you really focused on. So for example, Simon is now working on organic chemistry for the last 20 years. So his colleagues and maybe even other people from other companies through conferences know about your expertise in organic chemistry. It's very simple, right? But even if you are on the generalist track, so you're on more the general management track and you don't have an expertise in a certain topic or maybe even industry if you're a consultant, it's very important that you build some form of expertise, and then that could maybe be a function. So for example, if you have done a lot of M&A deals at your company, so anytime there is an acquisition or a carve out of a business unit, you've been involved and you've shown a great track record, then you, Simon, are now known as the M&A expert at your company, for example. And that doesn't mean necessarily that you have expertise in a certain topic. Like you might know nothing about chemistry. You might not even have a lot of expertise about the chemical industry or automotive industry or tech or any other industry, but you're really good at M&A, right? So for example, I'm going to tell you a story of when I was a consultant at McKinsey. A lot of times when someone joined the company early on, they did a lot of different projects in different industries and also in different functions. So maybe sale, then the next project was supply chain, then the next project was product development. And then once they were in automotive, second project was in the chemical industry. So very, very wide. And then you have to really make a decision. Do you focus now on a certain industry and you really do projects in, for example, the chemical industry, and you are more flexible on the function side, or do you really focus on a certain function and you're more flexible in the industry. So for example, you then do mergers and acquisitions across all industries, and then you're known as the M&A guy. So whatever it is you choose, whether it's a topic expertise or a function expertise, you really need to build and also communicate a certain expertise. It's very difficult to build a brand when you're not really known for something, when you're not particularly good at something. And that's really the second key point, the communication. So you need to make sure that you not only have expertise, but that your colleagues and maybe also recruiters and people at other companies in that field know about your expertise. You could do that, for example, by going to conferences, by publishing some white papers, or also if you have a lot of exposure already because you're in a leadership position. For example, when I was consulting on a project in my time in management consulting, there was one manager working in the company that I was serving who got this new CEO job because he really made a great transformation in his previous CEO role at another company. And that's how he got that new job to do exactly the same thing, right? So if you're already in a position where you have exposure through what you're doing, for example, in a management position, then doing your job well and also communicating well the metrics that you have improved, for example. In that specific case, I'm just making it up, he improved, for example, the revenue of the company by X% in a certain amount of time. He cut costs by X% in a certain amount of time and really helped improve the profitability of the company. And that's how recruiters heard from him and were able to recommend him to the new company and get him that second CEO role, right? So really bring out your skill set by communicating it in different platforms. And for example, LinkedIn can also be such a platform. If you, for example, make clear in your job description, I've worked on X, Y, Z, but also clearly state, and I've achieved ABC, for example, X% improvement of a certain performance metrics. And the more clearly communicate and also maybe make posts on LinkedIn, maybe you have an own blog. And the more clearly you communicate who you are and what you stand for, the easier it is for recruiters and also potential future employers to understand who is this guy, what does he bring to the table, is it a good match for me? And if yes, then as I said, you can hit the ground running. You don't have to prove, or am I really good at this? Does my skill match to what is needed? Because they already know who you are. You're already known for that certain skill and that certain expertise. And what can also be very helpful for your brand is if on your CV you have experience from very well-known institutions or companies that you worked at. So maybe you've done an MBA at a very prestigious university, or you've worked in a company that is very well-known and respected in a specific field that you're working at, right? So then that backs your brand implicitly because they know, oh, Simon, for example, worked at McKinsey, so that means he must have some good skills in strategy or in management, right? So by having exposure to companies or institutions that already have a certain brand and having that on your CV, that really also helps to build your brand as well. But let's move on to the second point, which was your character and the values and what you really stand for as a person. Why is that important? Because a part of a brand is also a certain trust and a interpersonal connection, right? So it's very important that throughout your career, you are really authentic. You have certain defined values which you upkeep, and you're not just opportunistic in changing them whenever the opportunity arises or it becomes more favorable to change them. And also you have a certain set of values, you're known for that certain set of values, and you will stand by them. And that really creates trust. And trust is really important in any brand. So for example, if you buy a certain product, you believe that the quality of that brand, of that product, is not going to change. They're not going to give up on the quality, on the promise of that brand just because, for example, they want to make some extra money. No, you trust the brand because throughout history they have shown that they stand by their values, by their brand message, and they're not changing it. So that's exactly the same when you build your personal brand. Really make sure that you are seen as someone who keeps their word, who stands by their values, who is very authentic, and is also very open, honest, and fair. And it's very easy to destroy that by just a few instances of being maybe dishonest or being not open or not communicating directly. And it's very, very difficult to rebuild that. So just make sure that you pay a lot of attention to really being authentic and being strong and true to your own values. And the third part is really your uniqueness. What makes you stand out from everyone else? What makes you special? Was there life experiences that gave you, for example, a certain view on things that only you have because you went through that life experience? And a little bit that's also covered or connected, of course, to the skills, right? So for example, I did my bachelor's and master's in chemistry, then my PhD in chemical engineering or systems engineering, and then I went into management consulting, and now I went into the energy industry. So that means I have a very, I would say, unique background in terms of topic expertise in chemistry and green energy, even did my PhD on electrolysis, for example, but also I have this experience as a management consulting where I look at things from a higher level perspective, well, bird's eye view, right? So not only very deep into the topic, but also looking at the strategic elements to it. And to actually combine that is something that makes me unique to a certain extent, because not many people have that specific background. And there are companies who are looking for that. And that's, for example, also how I got my current position, because I brought that expertise of chemical engineering and chemistry, but also the combination of strategic thinking from my management consulting experience. And that really helps me right now in my current role. And that's how my own life experience makes me unique and is also coupled to a skill set that I've developed. And if you're able to communicate that well in an interview, but also, for example, the channels that I mentioned, then it really helps you to land a career or land a job that's fitting to your own specific skills and needs. And that really helps you in also not having to prove yourself in the beginning, but really hit the ground running and being able to bring in all your time, your energy into developing yourself further and bring value to the company. So I hope this was helpful. As I said in the beginning, if you're interested in free coaching, just drop a comment or send me an email. And looking forward to see you again in the next video.